hope you guys are all having an amazing week and a great summer so far. All right, so Mr. Doug is going to use his creativity. Wait 1 second, creativity, that's our topic for the month. And that is imagining what you could do because you're made in God's image. You know what that means, Mr. Doug? That means you're made in God's image.
Yes!
I'm made in God's image. All of you are made in God's image. Wow, that is so cool. Woohoo! Today, we are going to be talking about Paul. We have been talking a lot about Paul this summer. All right, so as we were talking, Mr. Doug is going to use his creativity to draw some pictures for us related to our story. In the New Testament, we find quite a few letters written by a man named Paul. Paul wrote to believers in different churches. He wanted to encourage them as they tried to follow Jesus. Side note about Paul, he hadn't always been a Jesus follower. Remember, he actually persecuted or harmed people who were Christians. But then Paul had an encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, and it changed his life forever. Paul started a church in Ephesus. All right, so can you go ahead and draw us a church? Wow, that is really a great job. You're really creative.
Thank you.
Nice. The churches back then didn't really look like ours do now. In fact, the believers just usually met in people's houses. After Paul started the church in Ephesus, he left. But later he went back to stay for several years. The believers there were from different backgrounds. The one thing they had in common was that they believed in Jesus and that he died and then he came back to life. Can you draw us a cross, Mr. Doug? Ta-da! Wow, great job, Mr. Doug. As Paul went around telling people about Jesus, he was so bold that he actually got in trouble with the Roman government. They didn't want people talking about Jesus, so Paul ended up in jail. All right, Mr. Doug, can you draw us a good picture of Paul in jail? Ta-da! Wow, that is really good. Good job. But even though Paul had a good reason to complain, he used his time creatively. He wrote letters to the churches that he started, including the church at Ephesus. He reminded them that God created us to do good things for others. Check out what he wrote as it's recorded in Ephesians 2:10. We are God's creation. He created us to belong to Christ Jesus. Now we can do good works. Long ago, God prepared these works for us to do. Wow, that's really good stuff. Let's go ahead and break that down a little more. Okay, so the first part is we are God's creation. All throughout the Bible, we read that God not only created us, but he created us in his image. That means that God made us to be like him. And since God is creative, we can be creative too. Speaking of that, man, Mr. Doug, you are working on something over there. Let's get back to our verse. We are God's creation. He created us to belong to Christ Jesus. When Jesus is in our heart, it changes the way we see the world. Our relationship with Jesus is what helps us to see the needs of others that are around us, and it makes us want to help them. All right, so let's finish reading what Paul wrote. We are God's creation. He created us to belong to Christ Jesus. Now we can do good works. Long ago, God prepared these works for us to do. We can use the gifts God gave us to help the people around us.
Got an idea.
Did you make that for me?
I did.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
Says you're awesome.
Wow, that's what I'm talking about right here. He used his creativity to make me something so wonderful and beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Doug.
You're welcome.
I feel very encouraged. Oh, thanks for all your help today, Mr. Doug. I really appreciate it. So here's something that we need to remember. The creativity God gives us is not just about art and music. God designed you in a unique way to help to love Him and to love others. That's what Paul meant by good works. He meant that we can use the unique way that God designed us to show His love to other people. For some people, those creative good works are things like drawing, songwriting, or painting incredible works of art. For someone else, creativity might look different. They might build a robot or build something really cool out of Legos. That's pretty fun. Or they might develop a cool game or a cool app, or they just might be good at making people laugh. Mr. Doug is pretty good at making me laugh. All right, so no matter how God made you creative, you can use that creativity to help others. But before you use your creativity, you need to believe that you're creative in the first place. And I'm here to tell you that's true. You are. Remember, you are made in God's image. And our bottom line today is God created you so you can be creative. All right, guys, I want you to think about this week how you can be creative and show God's love to somebody else. It can be the form of a picture. How great is this? All right, have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. Bye.